Hello, everyone. My name is Cat Oriel with Forbes Breaking News. Today, I'm here with Beth Lynk, the Executive Director of When We All Vote. Beth, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's an exciting day and week to do it. It's National Voter Registration Week. So excited to be here.
Yeah, happy National Voter Registration Day. And I'm sure it's been very busy for all of you over at When We All Vote. So, what initiatives have you been employing today to get voters signed up?
Yeah, so today and really throughout the week, we are registering thousands of voters across the country to get ready and registered to vote this year. That looks like our volunteers hitting the ground running, hosting voter registration drives across the country, from college campuses to high schools to communities across the country. It looks like showing up in culture. So I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to be attending the sold out Atlanta Dream and Chicago Sky game, where we're turning it into a voter registration event to really encourage folks to take action and to register to vote. And then we're showing up online. For example, just earlier today, we were on Twitch where Questlove headlined a DJ set, getting folks registered to vote. We have our co-chairs and our ambassadors showing up online, taking action to get folks registered. And many folks across the country, ranging from our founder, Mrs. Michelle Obama, to folks that you may follow and be in community with, are sharing information about how to get registered, how to take action, and sharing that with their friends, family, and community.
I definitely want to talk about all the star power that you guys have behind your team, but I'm also curious about the numbers. Are you seeing a record number of voters signups this year compared to previous years? And I know you guys do have specific goals, so how are your goals going? Are you on target to meet those?
Yeah, we are really energized and excited to hear from young people and from Black and Brown voters across the country that they are so motivated and energized by the issues. One of the first things that we ask at a voter registration event or when we're in community with folks is, what do you care about? And the top issues that always rise to the top range from the economy and matters of the purse or the pocketbook, to issues related to climate change, gun violence prevention, or how you're keeping yourself and your family safe. And so those are top issues that are really resonant with many voters across the country. We're a nonpartisan organization. We're not telling you who to vote for, but we know that for young people in particular, the issues are the most motivating item to get to take action and to engage. And it's really great for us to be able to have conversations with young people about, oh, you care about that issue, you care about reproductive rights. We'll look at up and down the ticket, who impacts and makes decisions about your reproductive rights, and how you can shape who is in positions of power to make those decisions for you. So it's a really, absolute honor to be able to do that work and be in community and in conversation with our larger community and ultimately see them take action and take action together.
Are you seeing primarily Gen Z and younger voters are the ones that you guys are signing up more so this year than ever before?
Well, in 2020, about 71% of the people that we registered to vote were young, Black, and Brown. We often are really focusing on and engaging young voters, and that's because young voters are so powerful and have the opportunity to make such an outsized impact this year, and it's really their moment. So 40 million Gen Z voters have the ability and opportunity to vote this year. 8 million of those will be voting in their first election. To me, that's an opportunity to build the next generation of voters. And we're doing that through conversations in high schools across the country, to engaging on college campuses, and with young voters. So it's very exciting. We're seeing a lot of energy, particularly have seen an uptick in registrations in the last few weeks. And we're really riding that wave this week as we continue to encourage folks to take action, because time is running out. There is time, but it's running out. We're less than 50 days away from Election Day. Voter registrations will start to, voter registration deadlines will start to kick in October 6th in some states, and then on a rolling basis throughout the month of October. So today's the day, now's the moment,
Yeah.
don't wait.
Right. I do want to talk about voter registration deadlines and all the dates that people need to know, but circling back to what we were alluding to earlier, speaking of riding a wave of voter registration, I think the question that is on everyone's mind was, did you see a boost after Taylor Swift posted on Instagram telling her millions, hundreds of millions of followers to register to vote just last week after the debate?
Yeah, well, I know, we were really excited to see Taylor Swift jump in to encourage folks to get registered and to take action. I believe there are numbers in the hundreds of thousands of folks who've registered. It keeps ticking up and up, so I don't have the specific number off the top of my tongue right now, but we do continue to see that momentum and that energy. We also, like I said, I'm in Georgia today. Since late July, we've seen 40,000 voter registrations in Georgia alone, just kind of continuing to that energy. And a lot of those folks were young voters. So that's really exciting. We're also really excited. You mentioned a little bit of the star power piece,
Mhm.
but we're really excited to be adding to the cadre of amazing co-chairs and ambassadors that we have. Particularly Jason Tatum has joined us as a co-chair of When We All Vote today. So we are really excited to welcome him to the team. He's not new to this. He's true to this. He has been working with us since 2020 when he really activated and registered thousands of voters with us in 2020. Obviously, he's an NBA champion, young Black man who can really speak to why he votes, why this is important to get in the game and engage. And we're really excited to have him on board alongside our other co-chairs like Janelle Monáe, Shonda Rhimes, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Tom Hanks, and more.
Yeah, and can you just speak a little bit more as to why that strategy works and just the power of having, celebrities, people that, their audience and fans look up to? Why is that such an effective tactic in getting people to come out and vote?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that we do three things. One, we're increasing the race. We're addressing and closing the race and age voting gap. We're increasing participation in each and every election, and we're changing culture around voting. And that last piece is something we take really seriously. We see it as our superpower, and part of that is yes, amplifying accurate, fun, engaging information, amplifying why we vote. And that's such a personal thing for many people, including these individuals with massive followings like these celebrities, artists, and athletes. That being said, it's also about diversifying the voices that are having conversations about voting, democracy, and civic engagement more broadly. And so sometimes that starts when you see Jason Tatum posting something about voting, and it starts a conversation at your kitchen table, at your dorm dining room, dining hall conversation, or in a group chat or in a direct message with someone with like, oh, did you check this out? Or did you register to vote? Or how are you feeling about this? Those are the kind of conversations that we're excited to engage. I also think it is equally important, if not slightly more so, to also encourage our thousands of volunteers across the country and our many My School Votes high school students to be ambassadors and evangelists in their own community for voting and engagement. We're doing that by making it as easy as possible for people. They can get a personal voter registration portal, share it with your group chats, your cousins, your family, your friends, slide into someone's DMs. There's a lot of different ways to reach folks, but often it's the people that are closest to us and that are in community with us that are the most impactful for and most inspiring for us to take action. So that's it's a both and just to answer your question.
Mhm. So as you mentioned, we're only less than 50 days away now, and I know voter registration deadlines vary state by state. So what's the best way for people to find out the rules in their particular area? And are there any general deadlines people need to know, or is it just so dependent on where you live?
Well, first and foremost, you can come and check out When We All Vote's Instagram and social media. You can always go to whenweallvote.org. Weall.vote/hub provides educational resources and materials for a voter hub for if you're looking for those deadlines, how to request an absentee ballot, and some of those other resources. So that is a really important and good resource to bookmark and have. But if you don't know where to go, just visit us on Instagram. We've got a lot of resources about those deadlines. Generally speaking, there are states like Georgia and Arizona that have voter registration deadlines on October 6th. So that's why that's a bit of a marker that that's when the deadlines start to kick in. Other states will have rolling deadlines over the next few months or over the next few weeks. So Pennsylvania, for example, is the 21st of October, but it really varies by the state that you're in. So check out your date and your deadline, know it, share it, make sure that others know. But the larger thing is, yes, there's a little bit of time, but don't wait. The deadlines are really fast approaching. And you can take action right now to check your voter registration, make sure you're ready to go and share that with others because, now is the moment, now is your moment. And we can make our voices heard together. We're really powerful, but only if we all take action and get in the game.
I want to switch gears now a little bit to talk about an issue that is particularly, I know, important to our audience and that we hear coming up a lot, which is voter ID laws. And that's also an issue that varies state by state and really affects people's ability to vote. And as you know, I'm sure right now House Republicans are pushing legislation called the SAVE Act, which, as they say, aims to target illegal voting by non-American citizens, which I should note is already incredibly rare. So I'm also wondering, when you're looking at this rhetoric coming out, well, first off, what is When We All Vote stance on voter ID requirements, proof of citizenship, and this legislation overall?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, I just want to talk more broadly about voter suppression and
Mhm.
some of these making it harder, making it scarier, making it more stressful, making it take longer, keep adding more steps. None of that is a coincidence. It's voter suppression. And so these are targeted measures to try and deter specific groups from voting. If they're eligible to do so, you should not be deterred or prohibited from voting. And that is, but it's targeted. It's targeted, and it is, and it's insidious. So one of the things that we try and make sure that folks know is if you are eligible to vote, here's the process, here's how you can do it, and here's how how to take action. I know I'll get back to voter ID laws, but I also want to talk, there's people here about voter purges in states across the country. When you're hearing that your state might be doing voter purges or has done voter purges, all that means, what I hear is for you right now is just check your voter registration and encourage everyone you know to do it. Because what that will do is make sure that if you are purged, if you were not registered, you can catch that now and early. Take action. You have that control. You have that power. Your voice matters. You were invited into this process. And honestly, that these efforts are really an indication of how important your voice is because they don't want you to vote. So, right. So this is that's just part one. On voter ID laws in particular, we don't believe that it should be harder for those who are eligible to vote, and it shouldn't be scarier or more stressful. So whether you're, someone who's eligible to vote who may be in a specific group that's targeted by these voter ID laws, or if you're a young person who now cannot use their college ID, their student ID to register to vote, a number of states like Ohio, Idaho, Iowa are saying that if you're a student on campus, you can't use your student ID to register to vote. Then you have to take an additional step. And for those students, for example, that can be really hard. You're 18 years old, you go away to college, you're, registering, you're deciding that you want to register to vote in the state where you're going to school instead of at home. You want to go through that process. Then you also have to figure out how to get a driver's license or a state ID on top of having to learn how to register to vote, right? So it's all of these barriers being put in place. So to answer your question simply, we believe that it should be easy to vote, it should be accessible, and it shouldn't be, you shouldn't be deterred from having the opportunity to vote.
Well, speaking of voting starting soon, it's early. I believe early voting is starting in some states on Friday. So, what else should voters know about early voting when making? Also, how should voters be making their decisions on how to vote? If say you're in a state, not every state has all these options, but say you're in a state where you could vote early, you could fill out a mail-in ballot or vote on election day. How do you recommend voters going about finding out when early voting starts and making those decisions for themselves?
Yeah, well, I will say we love early voting. We believe it's an easy way to get it out of the way and make it as easy as possible and just vote on your terms. November 5th is election day. Certainly you can vote on election day, but if for whatever reason you might be traveling, you might have other things, life comes up, maybe you get sick, maybe the kids are sick, whatever it may be, early voting is an opportunity for you to do it on your own terms. So we certainly encourage folks to vote early if that works for you and your plan. If you're in a state that has mail-in voting, look at that. Look at those mail-in ballot request deadlines to request a mail-in ballot if that's something you would like to do, or request an absentee ballot if you are eligible to do that. So there's a number of ways to do it, but the bottom line is that voting is not a pop quiz. You can plan ahead, and that includes how you will vote, when you will vote, and then looking and checking out what's on the ballot. You know what you care about. Now, understand and do the research ahead of time about who is on that ballot, and do their values align with yours. So that is a process that you can go through as you're preparing to vote, that we encourage folks. And again, we have a lot of resources to help you do that. That's at weall.vote/hub.
We had record turnout voting in 2020. I'm just curious how you're adjusting to a new landscape post-COVID. Are you
Yeah.
anticipating any voting changes from 2020, or is lower voter turnout more of a concern this year just because some of the states that are, historically harsher with mail-in voting requirements were a bit lax during COVID. So, how are you thinking about that when it comes to mail-in voting and how that might impact voter turnout?
Yeah. I mean, it's a different year than 2020 for sure. One, we're engaging people in person, we're out in community, and a lot of folks are going to be voting in person, whether they vote in person early or they vote in person on election day. But that also means that we are doing outreach to voters to get them registered and to get them engaged in person. Really excited. We will be hosting hundreds of parties at early polling locations in partnership with our local partners, where we'll host these parties. Our partners will host these parties. We'll invite voters to come in to vote and then to celebrate, because we know that voting is a community joyful experience that ultimately results in action that builds a future that you want to see for yourself. So that is that's one of the ways that we're thinking about it. The second thing that is different about this year is that the power of young voters is so outsized. I talked a bit about the fact that 40 million Gen Z voters will be making their voice heard. The impact of young voters, about half of the electorate is Gen Z and millennials, is so powerful. And ultimately, in terms of turnout, that will determine elections, period. We know that some elections are decided by as few as 6 votes. You want to be a part of the cohort that is making your voice heard and a part of that process. You don't want to be wondering what if. So that's something that we're really encouraging folks. And then, we talked a bit about this, but the last thing that's making this year different is that in some places it is harder to vote, and we have to be real about that. We are filling that gap, and we'll be reaching out to folks in October about how to get to the polls, whether it's providing free rides with our partners or providing information about this. Make a plan, don't make it a pop quiz, filling some of that gap and that information. But today it's all about getting registered. That's the first step. Second step is to make a plan. Third step, vote.
Mhm. Well, that's the end of my questions. Is there anything else you want to add about voter registration, early voting, voter turnout, making plan to vote? Anything we didn't touch on yet?
Well, I would just be a bad organizer if I didn't have some asks. So for everybody who's joining us here, I would just say, please right now, pause, do 3 things. One, check your voter registration status and register to vote. You can go to whenweallvote.org to get registered to vote. The second thing you can do is, we were talking a bit about using your power in your community, your family, your network to encourage action. And so you can join our voting squad and create a custom voter registration portal. You can go to weall.vote/voting-squad to create a custom portal. So for me, mine is weall.vote/Beth. You can make it whatever you want, your name or something more fun than that. And then the third thing I would say is consider hosting a voter registration drive or event in your community. Our team can certainly support you. If you would like, you can join us at weall.vote/NVRW. That's weall.vote/NVRW. And if you can't remember that, just come to whenweallvote.org.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was really a great conversation and so timely.